talk about upper respiratory tract, which is a part of the respiratory system, which includes nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, and larynx. Nostrils or the external air is the opening of the nose or the opening that is present above the upper lip. Nostril leads to nasal cavity or the nasal chamber. So we have left nasal cavity and right nasal cavity, which is divided by the middle nasal septum. Nasal cavity or the nasal chamber leads to the next part, that is pharynx. As you all know, pharynx is a funnel shaped structure which is a common passageway for both air and the food. Pharynx mainly consisting of three parts, that is nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. Naso means nasal cavity or related to nose. So nasopharynx is a part of the pharynx into which nasal cavity opens. Oro means oral cavity. So oropharynx is the middle part of the pharynx into which the oral cavity opens. Laryngopharynx is the inner part of the pharynx which leads to the larynx. Larynx and the esophagus. So laryngopharynx leads to larynx and the esophagus. Since we are talking about the respiratory system, we'll talk about the larynx. So laryngopharynx or the pharynx leads to the next part, that is larynx. Larynx is a cartilaginous box which has a capacity to produce sound or which will produce sound. That's why it is called as a sound box. The front part of the larynx is prominent and you can visualize from outside, which is known as Adam's apple. The opening of the larynx into which pharynx opens is known as glottis. So pharynx has an opening into which the pharynx opens, which is known as glottis. This glottis region has a flap-like structure known as epiglottis, which is very important because during swallowing of the food, this epiglottis closes the glottis, thereby it prevents the entry of food into the larynx region. So pharynx leads to larynx, larynx leads to trachea, which is a part of the lower respiratory tract. So the upper respiratory tract has nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx and larynx part.